There was a time when Nickelodeon wasn't just a TV channel. It was a world for millions of kids. Saturday mornings meant cereal on the couch, static on the TV, and a lineup of shows that defined our childhoods. The late 90s and early 2000s were Nickelodeon's golden era, an era that gave us some of the most creative, emotional, and downright iconic animated shows in television history. These weren't just cartoons, they were reflections of the world around us, filled with personality, humor, and heart. Today, we're looking back at 10 shows that didn't just shape Nickelodeon, they shaped an entire generation. These shows redefined what kids' television could be, influencing pop culture for decades to come. Let's get into it.
Like this, subscribe, like this video.
Let's start with the Wild Thornberrys. Long before YouTube travel vloggers or wildlife influencers, there was Eliza Thornberry, a red-headed, braces-wearing, animal-talking explorer who made the entire world feel within reach. Premiering in 1998, this show wasn't afraid to take kids on adventures that spanned jungles, deserts, and savannas. It didn't define itself to one neighborhood or one city. It made the planet the playground. Eliza's ability to communicate with animals gave kids a sense of wonder and empathy for creatures they'd never ever seen before. And beyond that, the Wild Thornberrys quietly taught lessons about environmental awareness, cultural respect, and curiosity without ever feeling preachy. It made us feel like the world was big, and that was exciting, not scary. And of course, we can't forget Nigel Thornberry, his unique accent with his over-the-top catchphrases. He somehow became a meme icon years later, proving that Nickelodeon characters had staying power that even the internet couldn't resist. But while the Thornberrys made us dream of exploration, Rocket Power made us dream of adventure closer to home. When it premiered in 1999, the world was just starting to embrace skateboarding, surfing, and extreme sports culture. And this show captured it all. Otto, Reggie, Twister, and Sam were the definition of cool. They didn't need superpowers or gadgets, just a skateboard, a surfboard, and confidence. Rocket Power perfectly bottled up the energy in the late 90s, the slang, the style, the soundtrack. It was a West Coast fantasy. And Reggie Rocket, she was ahead of her time, one of the first confident, athletic female leads in the boys' world. The series gave kids permission to be different, to take risks, to live a little louder. It wasn't just a show about sports, it was about freedom. Every episode made you feel like life was one big halfpipe, and you just had to drop in. Then came one of Nickelodeon's most underrated gems, My Life as a Teenage Robot. Airing in the early 2000s, it told the story of Jenny Wakeman, a teenage android built to protect the world but desperate to live a normal teenage life. On the surface, it was a fun sci-fi comedy, but beneath was something deeper. A story about identity and the struggle to be accepted. Jenny wanted to fit in, to go to school dances, to have friends, to be human. That made her one of the most relatable Nickelodeon characters ever, despite being a robot. Its art style was striking, a mix of retro 1950s futurism with early 2000s pop culture energy. Every episode looked like a piece of modern art. The show explored themes of loneliness and acceptance in ways that resonated far beyond its target audience. Even years later, it found a second life online, embraced by fan artists and nostalgic creators who recognized just how ahead of its time it truly was. Jenny wasn't just a character, she was a metaphor for feeling different in a world that wants everyone to be the same. Now, if Jenny represented heart and vulnerability, Danny Phantom represented cool confidence. Created by Butch Hartman, the show followed Danny Phantom, an ordinary kid who accidentally becomes half ghost, half human. It was one of Nickelodeon's most stylish and cinematic series. Dark green hues, glowing auras, and a guitar-heavy theme song that immediately hooked you. But beyond the visuals, Danny Phantom balanced his superhero action and teenage emotion with perfection. It explored responsibility, secrecy, and self-discovery long before superhero fatigue existed. Danny wasn't just fighting ghosts, he was fighting growing up. Characters like Vlad Plasmius brought unexpected depth, blending fatherly manipulation with classic villainy. And even though the show ended too soon, its legacy hasn't faded. It lives on through fan projects, petitions, and memes. Because deep down, we all still want to go ghost. And while Danny Phantom dealt with ghosts, Jimmy Neutron brought science to life. Premiering in 2002, after a successful theatrical film, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius felt like Nickelodeon entering the future. It was one of the first fully CGI animated series on TV, and it didn't waste the opportunity to be bold. Jimmy was a kid genius who constantly built inventions that backfired in hilarious ways. The writing was sharp, witty enough for adults, silly enough for kids. It balanced intellect with heart, showing that being smart didn't mean being boring. The town of Retroville became a playground for chaos, and the supporting cast, Carl, Sheen, Cindy, Hugh Neutron, gave the show a comedic edge that's still quoted today. Got a Blast became a cultural punchline, and Carl's llama obsession became meme history. Beyond laughs, Jimmy Neutron encouraged curiosity. It made kids think about how science could be fun, creative, and full of imagination. But not all Nickelodeon brilliance came in bright colors. Invader Zim was something entirely different, chaotic, cynical, and unhinged in the best way possible. Created by comic artist Jonan Vasquez, Invader Zim was a gothic sci-fi comedy about an alien trying and failing to conquer the Earth. It was loud, gross, and hilariously dark, something Nickelodeon had never dared to try before. The humor was sharp, the art was grotesque, and the tone was unapologetically weird. And yet, that's exactly why it became a cult classic. Invader Zim spoke to the kids who didn't fit in, who loved strange humor and outsider perspectives. It laid the groundwork for shows like Rick and Morty and Gravity Falls, proving that darkness and absurdity could coexist beautifully. Zim and Ger's quotes still echo across internet culture, their gifs still used daily. Invader Zim wasn't just a cartoon, it was a rebellion disguised as comedy. Of course, none of this would have been possible without Rugrats, the show that started it all. Debuting in 1991, Rugrats followed the adventures of babies who saw the world through boundless imagination. It was a simple premise, but the execution was genius. Every episode reminded us what it was like to be curious, to see magic in the mundane. Through Tommy, Chucky, Phil, Lil, and Angelica, kids got to see how powerful imagination could be. It balanced childlike wonder with clever, layered storytelling that adults could appreciate too. The world felt big, confusing, and hilarious, just like childhood itself, and its legacy is undeniable. Rugrats defined Nickelodeon's brand in the 90s, spawned movies, crossover events, and even inspired other studios to take animation seriously as a form of emotional storytelling. Then came Hey Arnold, arguably the most emotional cartoon Nickelodeon ever made. Set in a bustling, diverse city neighborhood, it told stories that were honest, grounded, and full of empathy. Arnold wasn't just your typical cartoon protagonist. He wasn't loud, he wasn't goofy, he was calm, thoughtful, and kind. His world was filled with unique characters. Helga, Gerald, Grandpa Phil, all with their own struggles and dreams. The show tackled subjects that no other kids' cartoon dared to touch at the time. Poverty, family loss, immigration, mental health, even urban loneliness. And yet, it never felt heavy-handed. The mellow jazz soundtrack, the soft colors, and the slow pacing gave it a warmth that felt like comfort food for the soul. Hey Arnold taught kids that being kind was cool. It wasn't just entertainment, it was emotional education. And then there's the one, the only, SpongeBob SquarePants. But not just any SpongeBob. We're talking about the Golden Age. The first 3 seasons, created under the original team led by Steven Hillenburg. Those first episodes were lightning in the bottle. Every joke hit, every line was quotable, every episode had an identity of its own. It balanced absurdity and sincerity like no other show. SpongeBob himself represented optimism in its purest form, a reminder to find joy in the simplest things, like flipping Krabby Patties or blowing bubbles. Squidward embodied the cynicism of adulthood, Patrick the joyful stupidity of youth. Together, they created something timeless. The humor transcended age, and the cultural impact has never faded. Memes, quotes, references, SpongeBob became one of the internet's universal languages. Those first 3 seasons defined an era of comedy that still influences shows today. They were weird, brilliant, and endlessly rewatchable. A creative peak Nickelodeon never truly matched again. And finally, we arrive at Avatar: The Last Airbender, the masterpiece. Released in 2005, it wasn't just Nickelodeon's greatest achievement, it was one of television's greatest achievements, period. On paper, it was a children's fantasy about a young boy who could control the elements. In execution, it was a deeply emotional saga about destiny, war, and redemption. The storytelling was layered and mature, exploring themes of genocide, imperialism, identity, and spirituality, all while remaining accessible to kids. The animation was cinematic, inspired by East Asian art and martial arts choreography that felt fluid and real. Every movement, every element, every arc was intentional. Aang's journey toward balance mirrored our own struggles to find peace in a chaotic world. Zuko's redemption arc remains one of the most celebrated character developments in modern storytelling. Avatar wasn't just a great Nickelodeon show, it redefined what animated television could be, influencing everything from The Legend of Korra to The Dragon Prince and beyond. It showed that animation could be just as powerful, emotional, and epic as live-action cinema. Looking back now, it's clear that these shows weren't just products of their time, they were timeless. Together, they made Nickelodeon not just a network, but a movement. A movement that told kids it was okay to be weird, to care, to dream, to fail, and to get back up. Nickelodeon during this era didn't talk down to its audience. It respected them. It gave kids worlds that were funny, heartfelt, messy, and real. And that's why, decades later, we still remember them so vividly. These weren't just cartoons, they were memories. They taught us empathy, creativity, curiosity, and courage. They reminded us that imagination has no limits. And as the orange splat fades into nostalgia, one thing remains true. Nickelodeon didn't just entertain a generation, it defined one. Well, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree or disagree? Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, X, and TikTok at TheBeaverX, and I'll see you in the next one.